Well, hello everyone. It's time for this month's gaming vlog about developments that have been in and what I've been playing, and that also includes like how I've managed to get a few more promotional premium cards. I mean, on top of Double EV, I also have Umbreon on Hatena, and my personal favorite this latest poll, main holographic Koraidon. I mean, I'm still figuring out how to actually play the game, but in terms of the art direction, and that's the aspect that draws me towards it still, like Marge and the Potatoes. I just think they're neat, okay? And with that, uh, I'll definitely be getting into what I'm playing, as well as some other dealings I'll be keeping you up to date about. Won't be able to cover everything realistically, but I will cover the ones that stood out at me, so let's begin. So let's start with the one that let's get the rip the band off and get the less pleasant stuff out of the way first. I mean, after roughly a year online, 3 years to include the open beta uh, tests in 2022, who plans are being made to wind down multiverses this year, here, which is an option I never considered to be off the table, and they did rebalance all the rewards, or it's like just giving everyone the battle pass, including the final two fighters, barring some kind of miracle. Oh, let's go faith measure. I mean, those two being Lola Bunny and Aquaman. I'm enjoying playing with them both. I'm practicing for the arena event, and also if anyone else wants to join me as I go for Platinum Trophy, he my PSN names in the channel description. Still, it is a bit disheartening, to say the least. I mean, I could think of playing other fighters, raiders, as I would like to have C, and yes, even cosmetics for them, if I must think that. But unless something changes, it looks like we're not going to get a chance. That's mean. And I would advise everyone to not go after developers. They are clearly talented, and I realize that every time I sit down to play it for a few rounds. But I will say that blaming the executive meddling is more unacceptable as it always is. David, Guna, looking your direction, and and it would not surprise me at all if some of these ones that reportedly shelf leaked online, but I get ahead of myself here. On a more pleasant note, Nintendo has reconfirmed the release of the first full drive for the Switch 2 on April 2nd this year, and also we even have a time frame for it, at least is factoring in here in the United States. I mean, other territories will likely have different time zones, but it's going to be 6 a.m. Pacific in my time zone, 9 a.m. Eastern, and I imagine it'll provide you more details than we've been shown. And as I mentioned before, regardless of when we hear about the next Mario Kart, I actually really like the design they're doing for Donkey Kong now. I mean, reminds me not just of the recent movie with a sequel coming of that fairly soon, but also what Nakue is doing. Reminds me a lot of how the character looked in the original arcade game and some of the merch that came from that. So, and yes, there's already some video about taking like the devolution scene from the Infamous 93 movie and replacing Toad, played by Mojo Nixon, as and with DK in it. With that out of the way, I can also confirm what I'm playing on the Switch, like with Midnight Tonight wrapping down two trials of two games I'm enjoying for different reasons, albeit one or the other. Moving Out 2, the sequel to Moving Out, the hit physics based game where you're moving stuff outside of a house, and especially the roguelike Dead Cells. I mean, definitely has a unique approach to that game as well in terms of the arsenal, even with the most infamous thing about it being the plagiarized review that got the person who did it fired from their job and basically blackballed from the business. Spain, Spain, as well as his mealy mouthed non apology that was a load of nonsense. Similar or is enough. It was almost exactly the same. Like, just keep. This is just basic, but I still expect people to be have their own words about something, even have a similar perspective. One of my associates' favorite film of last year was Doom Part 2. It's on my list to be sure, but now I give some thought, I'd say my absolute favorite one was Maxine in the third and final film of the X trilogy. So there's that. I am also currently practicing for the Encore Chocolate Splatfest in Splatoon 3. I am once again going with Team Dark. We have antioxidants and a theme song. All I am also heavily enjoying Donkey Kong Country Returns HD, even with the discourse about how good it is at ports. I still maintain that it's a game that's tough, but fun. I mean, even if some of the traps are a bit cheap, admittedly, as well as how they play some of the checkpoints. Still, I'm also just working on getting all the call letters for some of the bonus stages too. So there's that. And with that, I think I'll also switch to what I'm talking about out on the PlayStation. New month also means new games in the essential tier. Here, that also means I'll have tried them both by now. Oh, let's start with Pac-Man World Repack, a remaster slash remake of the cult classic collectathon platformer Pac-Man World. I never played it, but it did seem to be the company's answer to who collected on platforms such as Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot, among many others, and while it may not be as well remembered or well regarded as those games, it definitely still is pretty fun on like it's also tricky sometimes, so don't let its colorful veneer fool you. As even some classic maid stages for those who just want on some classic Pac-Man dog glow hobbling action there. And the other game is High on Life, a very unconventional first-person shooter, and I think the game itself is good, but even if I can understand like the whole quippy improvisational humor is not for everyone, least of all the fact that even your guns are sentient, and as for the creative figure that's involved in there, well, let's just say I understand why they had to redub all his dialogue in there. Though, as for his Lego collection, you might want to sell all that for some of your current ongoing legal stuff, Justin. And oh yes, still lots and lots of Star Wars games, on top of me being continuing presence in Battlefront Classic Collection. I'm also working on getting farther in both Bounty Hunter, though I'll admit this most recent stage is giving me some issues, and also working on going for Platinum in Jedi Power Battles Remastered. Turns out that I need to actually be on a higher difficulty setting to get that one trophy in the Naboo ruins. I'll keep that in mind. Plus, I'll have New Game Plus, which makes me unlock all the secret characters too. So, and you also see me streaming in some of that. And speaking of remasters, who's with the remaster for Tomb Raider, her 4 through 6 HD coming next week. I'm also trying to play more of the first 3 games, which I still maintain that they did a really good job with. And the motor controls are not that tough to figure out. I mean, if they're definitely exactly like they said, play similarly to Tomb Raider, her Legend, which is one of my favorite installments of the franchise. And regardless of discourse over Lara's new design for the next game, I certainly hope that the gameplay itself is fun, as is the story. I mean, I still maintain that even though the ones I'm going to be playing next week do get into her origin story, I don't need a whole game full of trauma dumping. I mean, even though one concept their parents are dead, she basically manages to move past that and become like a powerful archaeologist and countess with a degree, a doctorate even, and and definitely he is very much like the Indiana Jones films inspired her creation, a survivor. Her, I really appreciate that. And finally, hey, as one last bit of stuff I'd like to mention, that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is not only the highest grossing film in the trilogy as I begin work on my spoiler review of the movie, which I intend to have done in on by the time the character's next anniversary in June. It's also officially the most successful live action video game adaptation ever now, which definitely bodes well for the upcoming 4th film in 2027, as well as a proposed television show about Shadow. Oh, some people might think that their children deserve better movies. I say this one definitely appeals to not only the children of this time frame who are familiar with newer games, the inner children of people like me who remember playing them on Sega's consoles, and perhaps those of their parents and their grandparents. So, that'll be all for now. I'll show you again very soon. Take care, everyone.